going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. This is going to be a player prop show here for Divisional Weekend. I thought this would be fun to do. I've been doing these on short form, like on TikTok and Instagram Reels, but I figured let's do a video and let's go through all my favorite matchups. Now, I don't play a ton of player props, and I do these on the Underdog app, which I'll talk about in a second, but I think there's some good information in here that you can use when I'm handicapping these games. I come across these matchups. Some of them, the lines don't have value anymore. They've been sucked out of the market. Some of them still have value, but we'll go through them all and we'll talk about them. I'm going to talk about all 4 games in this video. Before we start, I do want to mention our partnership with Underdog. Down below in the description, you'll find a link to download the Underdog app. Now, for me, guys, when I partner with anything like Action Network, Underdog, it's all about the product for me. If I try the app and I like it, I enjoy the interface experience, I will go ahead and be willing to do business with those people. So for Underdog, I really love playing on the app. I don't, it's not like my primary form of straight bets or anything like that. It's obviously a fantasy pick'em app, so it's player prop entries, but I love it just for fun. I love it for fun sweats. I play it with side money. I'm not putting like 2 units, 3 units on these. This is like small plays. But if you use our code LCS, when you download the app below, you'll get a free winner this weekend to get you started, a free half-yard pick on Patrick Mahomes, just to get 1 yard. Obviously, he's going to do that. So that's a free win to get you started. And also, they'll give you up to $1K in bonus cash when on your first deposit. So check out Underdog down in the description, and the code for sign up is LCS. Of course, yes, it helps us out. If you enjoy the content, it helps keep us going when you use our code as well. So check that out. All right, let's get into the games. Let's talk Houston, Kansas City first. That's the first game on Saturday. And I want to look at Isaiah Pacheco in this game. I think a lot of people will probably have talked about this already. But one of the things that I noticed towards the end of the season, they used Pacheco in some of those games, some carries here. There was, I think, one game where he got like 12, 13 carries, but he wasn't really that explosive. There were no really, he didn't look like the old Pacheco. But I really do think that they were just kind of holding him back. I really do think it was like, hey, get settled. We have 14, 15 wins, whatever the heck it was at that time, 13-1 or whatever it was. We don't need to go crazy here. We need to get him back into the flow of the offense, get him settled in. Kareem Hunt was also far more than serviceable. He was totally fine for the season. So it wasn't like they needed to go crazy with Pacheco, but now it's the playoffs now. All right. Kareem Hunt has given you a great chunk of time, but this is now the younger, fresher, healthier, better Pacheco's time to come back and get a full workload again. And if you look at the playoff history with the Kansas City Chiefs, they run the ball way more in the playoffs, including Mahomes, by the way. He rushes more in the playoffs. But also look at Pacheco's 7 playoff games, 17 carries per game, 73 yards per game. You're getting low numbers here with 10.5 and I think 41.5 on his rushing. So I really like them to use him a lot in this game. And for, kind of the script to flip a little bit in terms of whose backfield it is, right? I think this is going to be Pacheco's backfield going forward. Plus KC, they love controlling time possession in the playoffs. They want to keep the opposing offense on the sidelines. I think it's just a natural look here at Pacheco to have a little bit more success than people would expect on the ground. Now the Houston rushing defense is good, but the KC offensive line, excellent run blocking offensive line. So this is going to kind of be strength on strength here when you're looking at this. And I think that could be also suppressing his numbers a little bit, but I think he's going to get at least 11 carries in this game. I think the Chiefs also do not go away from the run like as quickly as other teams do if it's not working as well. So I really like this look for Pacheco. I think he's going to be just fine going forward. And then naturally, if we look on the other side, right, I just talked about how Kansas City's really good at controlling time of possession. That's going to hurt Houston because you're on the road, right? You're going to probably have to play to their pace. You're going to probably have to adjust to the way they want to play football because they're so good at establishing their tempo at home. So I want to naturally look at CJ Stroud and his passing yards. Another reason why I like this to go under his 230, I believe it's 228.5 now passing yards. But the reason why I think you can get 230 at some books though. The reason why that I like this so much though is because we know what Spags wants to do on the defensive side with Kansas City. Very, very similar to like a Vic Fangio. They want to eliminate your best play. They want to get Nico Collins out of the offense. So he's going to get his. He's a great receiver, but they want to make sure that he doesn't have the explosive plays. They make life difficult for him. They're physical with him, and they're going to body him up, potentially double teams. They're going to say beat us with Michi and Schultz and Mixon and Robert Woods. Beat us with those guys. Now, Robert Woods is questionable with a hip injury. He didn't practice so far this week, so we don't even know if he's going to go. If he does go, he might be limited. Like I said, you've got Schultz maybe catching some balls, but overall, I think Casey's going to be holding the ball, running the ball, with Pacheco and with Hunt. Mahomes running the ball and probably extending some drives on like third and short with his legs. I see all of this happening, and I just don't even think Houston's going to have the ball long enough for CJ Stroud to pass for this many yards. So I like CJ Stroud's under 230 and a half passing yards. Over to the second game, we've got the Commanders taking on the Lions. And I'm going to obviously look at Jaden Daniels, right? I mean, he's been unbelievable down the stretch, amazing, and he's so impressive it's unbelievable that this kid's a rookie. But I want to look at the two games that he played that were basically playoff games that had really, really high stakes. That was the game against Atlanta, where Atlanta desperately needed a win on that Sunday Night Football game. And then obviously the playoff game with the Buccaneers. He ran 16 times against Atlanta. He ran 13 times against Tampa Bay. On top of this, we have a matchup here for him in this game where I don't think he's going to have a ton of success passing, but the run is going to be there for him. Detroit plays a lot of man coverage, and historically, we all know that, if you know football, man coverage promotes more quarterback runs on the other end. And he's gone for 10 plus carries in 5 of his last 6 games. And I do think he's going to have to. They have to lean into what makes him so great, and that is his ability to move, similar to a Lamar Jackson. And his ability to run and keep drives going is what sets up those passing plays for them. So now still, even with how well they've played offensively, they don't have a ton of great weapons. I mean, you're looking at Diami Brown as your second wide receiver. McLaurin's great, but everyone else is kind of average. I think this is one of those games where that can finally show up. It hasn't showed up yet. It's like their offense looks great overall. And this could finally be one of those games where it's like, the other guys are not showing up, and he's going to have to carry the bulk, I think, here. And I also think Detroit is not going to be one of these teams that's just like, oh, you're going to sit there in the pocket and tear us apart. Like, they're not. I think Detroit's going to get pressure. I think they're going to send guys. I think they're going to be very aggressive, and they're going to say, go ahead, show us what you got. Like, that's exactly what I think Detroit's going to do. That's going to force him to run more. I think they're going to play decent coverage downfield because, again, the only guy really that you got to worry about is McLaurin in terms of like killing you with deep explosive plays. But even then, you look at McLaurin's separation stats; they're not great. So I like the matchup for Detroit offensively, and I think that the only concern here is maybe they're going to be holding the ball too much. But once Jaden Daniels has the ball, I think he's going to be running a lot in this game. So I like his over 9.5 attempts is where I'm going with this in that game. And another look naturally that correlates with that one is Brian Robinson to go under his rushing prop. So I like, let me take a look at where this is at. And I like Brian Robinson's under rushing yards, but I also like rushing plus receiving yards as well, because I don't think you're going to get as many of those dump offs. And I think Eckler is going to be used in those passing downs and those dump off downs. So, 37.5 rushing yards, but 47.5 rushing plus receiving, just getting an extra 10 yards, but I don't think he's going to be used much in the passing game at all. So I like that, especially because, like I said, this is going to be one of those games where it's like the ball is in Jaden Daniels' hands so much of the game. He's either going to be throwing to receivers, and I don't think a lot of those guys are going to be open much. I think he's going to be running a lot. I think he's going to be passing it to. I think the Ertz could be something to look at in this game, but I think Brian Robinson is not going to have success on the ground. I think Eckler, who's a more physical, bigger back, is more versatile with the passing game, could maybe even get more snaps than people think in this one, run a few more routes. So I think Robinson will be a lesser part of the offensive game plan in this particular matchup. I like looking at his unders. And then in the same game, we'll wrap up Saturday with, honestly, this might be my favorite one of the weekend, but I like Jared Goff's under a half a rushing yard, because similar to what I just talked about in terms of game script, I do think the Lions will be playing from ahead. I like the Lions to cover the spread. That's where I lean. So I think, if this game is out of hand late, probably see a lot of running, a lot of chewing clock. There's no need for him to run. The Commanders don't have an elite pass rush. The Lions' offensive line is great in pass protection. I don't think he's going to be struggling to find receivers or running for his life. The secondary is not that good. No one's been able to expose it too much yet. This is a perfect matchup for it to get exposed. And I just don't see any reason for Goff to run at all for his life. And on top of that, if there's victory formation at the end, which I do expect, you're going to get some QB kneels, and kneels are good for this. We saw this with Stafford on Monday night. He finished with -1 rushing yards, and I think you could see the same thing here, Goff finishing in the negative. So this is a full game sweat. I admit that. You're going to have to sweat this out. But Goff under half a rushing yard might be one of my favorite props because it's sneaky. It's like a sneaky look that not a lot of people are going to be looking at. So I like that one. All right. Over to the Sunday games, the Ravens taking on or actually let's start with the Rams and the Eagles. This one, very simple to me. I'm looking at both running backs. I want to look at Saquon. He killed them in the first matchup. Now, his yardage prop, guys, 111 and a half for Saquon is just inflated. It's too high. I get that he could easily get it. He ran for 250 against them in the first game. But the bottom line is it's still inflated for a playoff game. That's going to be tough conditions, bad weather. They're going to use him a lot, though. But what I really like, a sneaky look, is his receiving yards, which is not bumped up at all. It's actually a little bit reduced, 11 and a half. We saw this a lot at 12 and a half, 13 and a half during the regular season. In the first matchup with the Rams, he gashed them. What I'm saying is here, one dump off to Saquon, and you're getting this 11 and a half. He got one in the first matchup and gashed him for like 30 yards downfield. To me, this one is very, very simple. There's going to be a couple of times, this pass rush of the Rams looked so good against the Vikings. I don't think it's going to have that much success against the Eagles, but it's still something to look at. They're playing with a lot of energy, a lot of motivation, a lot of fire in that pass. So if they get even a little bit of pressure, there's going to be a couple of times where Saquon's going to take a dump off, take one of these passes. I really just think you need one of these. He makes one guy miss and he's got 12 yards. You might need two of them, but I really like this as a sneaky look when everyone's going to be hammering his rushing yards, his rushing attempts. No one's really talking about his receiving yards, which I think will come into play in this game. And in the playoffs, we see quarterbacks run more and we see more dump offs to running backs because you want to play it a little bit more safe than taking those shots across the middle of the field or downfield, tipped passes, all that stuff. So we see this as a recurring theme year after year. And I think it's a good look for Saquon in this particular matchup. On the other side, I think this is your classic Eagles win where they wear you down. They run clock, long drives that just brutalize your defense. And they like a 23-10, 24-13 final, something like that. And as a result, I don't think Kyren Williams will get as much burn as he normally would. His attempts number to me is inflated by about maybe 1.5, 18 and a half. I like the under in this one. I think the Rams are going to be playing from behind. He did not get that. I think he had 16 attempts in their first matchup when they were playing from behind. And that was an indoors game where they were trying to pass the ball a little bit more. Here in Philadelphia, out in the cold, the Rams have gone to historically slow starts in these spots. Man, it's just a really tough matchup with that Eagles defense, especially the way they defend the run. I don't like this one at all. I think Kyren Williams could be. And by the way, look out a little bit for Blake Corum to be used a little bit more. Now, they're kind of the same size, but they're built different. Corum, especially if you watch him in college, more of a bottom heavy, like his legs are a bit stronger. They're like the weight distribution is a little bit different, and that allows him to like be more of a bruiser. He'll plow through guys. He'll carry guys. Now, you're not going to do that consistently against the Eagles, who are great, but a couple plays here and there. So I could see maybe him getting a little bit more action than people would expect, and that's going to also chew into this number for Kyren Williams. So I like under 18 and a half attempts for Kyren Williams. Final game, we've got the Ravens and the Bills. Game of the week, best game of the week. Going to look at Derrick Henry. John Harbaugh has said this when they during the season many times. They signed Derrick Henry for this time of year. Why? Because we all remember what happened last year at home, AFC Championship game. You're a 5-point favorite against the Chiefs. They got away from the run, and they got away from it quickly. Once it wasn't having success, they stopped. They are not going to make that mistake again this season, and they have made that very clear. They're going to use him a lot. But, of course, his rushing yardage prop, just like Saquon, in my opinion, a little bit inflated, 95 and a half. Rushing yards, yes, the Bills are not a great rushing defense, but that's a lot for a playoff game. I like his sneaky receiving yards, 6.5 receiving yards for Derrick Henry. That's one dump off. I just talked about how quarterbacks run more, running backs get more looks in the passing game in the playoffs. One dump off, his receptions is 1.5. So if he just gets one, you're getting this. If Derrick Henry gets one catch, you could stay under the receptions. One catch and he falls forward through one guy. That's 6 yards right there. That's 7 yards right there. I think this is a great look on his receiving yard prop, which is very, very low. No one's talking about it, just like the Saquon one. But I could easily see this, one of those coming to fruition and maybe even break a screenplay. Maybe he even breaks one off. So I really like Henry's receiving yard prop. You could look at the rushing attempts as well. I do project a small edge on the rushing attempts. They're 19.5. I do project him to get 20 or more, which, he's done that a lot this year. And if they are playing from ahead or if they are, the point spread's kind of close though, so I wouldn't bank on that. But I really do I'm telling you, I love the receiving yards look for Derrick Henry. And on the other side, I'm going to go with what I believe is going to be the game script in this game. Baltimore if you look at the Baltimore's first half record, it is stellar. If you look at Buffalo's second half record, it is stellar. ATS. I think the game script will follow. I think the Ravens are going to get out early here. They're going to come in physical early on, establish the run, punch them in the mouth, and I think the Bills are going to have to respond. And the Bills, if they do what they did against Denver, it's not going to be successful. You can't pound the rock against Baltimore. They have too good of a rushing defense. You're going to have to, I think, find success through the air. So where that's naturally leading me is to Josh Allen's pass attempts and his passing yards. I think you could easily, I think there's a more than 50% chance that you have a scenario here where it's third quarter, Bills are down by 10, and something's got to happen. You can't continue to hand the ball off, getting 3 yards, 4 yards. It's just not working, 2 yards, whatever, with James Cook. I think this is one of those games that's going to come down to, like, the ball's got to be, just like Jaden Daniels, got to be in Josh Allen's hands, and he's got to make plays against the weakest part of this Ravens defense, which is their secondary, not up front. You have to be able to throw on these guys, even though they've gotten better. That is where they're the one area that they're exploitable. So I like his passing yards, which is at 239.5 right now. Pass attempts at 32.5, I think is very solid. I could see this being a game where he drops back 40 plus times, throws, for 45 plus times, throws 35 plus times. I really like the passing attempts look for Josh Allen. Let's take a look at Allen's yards and his attempts. So those are all. I'll list everything here as we go through the video, so you'll have every look that I'm considering. Now, obviously, these are my breakdowns and my matchup analysis, but at the end of the day, it's all about the line. Can you get the best line? Can you get the best price on that line? And if you can, I think these are all worth a good look. And also, don't forget to play on Underdog, too. I'm going to be putting these in an entry on Underdog as well, just to have some fun. And like I said, links down in the description for a free half-yard winner on Mahomes and 1K in bonus cash. Just use code LCS to help out your boy. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, we'll be back next week for Conference Championship Weekend. Good luck this weekend, and let's get it.